Hey everyone, welcome to the class. Tonight we're going to be talking about the least spiritual topic that there is, of course, and that is the topic of power, the solar plexus chakra.
Hurrah!
Spiritual work should make you more powerful, of course. But it's not often what we think of, is it? I mean, we think of being spiritual as being very mild mannered, and you don't power. No, that's the opposite. But you do need power to accomplish anything, right? And
Mm,
that's true for the inner journey as well. The inner journey is difficult. It takes it takes power to to make
yep,
progress,
yeah,
like anywhere.
big time.
And we have this center, this energetic center in our bodies, that is the center of power, of will, of discipline, all of that. And this is right at the base of the rib cage, right? So it's the solar plexus, it's solar plexus chakra. In Sufism, it's considered the depth of the heart. Uh, and it's a part of the body, but it's also about energy, right? It's about what is the energy of that center, and how do we strengthen it? How do we work with it? How do we experience it to get a sense of what that is, and also a sense of what it can do for us.
Mm.
I'm Dr. Astar Bear. I'm here, of course, with my co-teacher, Leah Schaefer, and we're delighted you can join
Hello.
us.
Hello, everyone. We're happy to be here. Um, yeah, so this center in particular, so we're in the midst of a series, and like Asatar was saying, this center is just below the rib cage, and it's called the solar plexus center, but it's very much associated with fire, like it's associated with will, with fire. And I have been focusing on it so much today that I couldn't help but go for a long run. Because I was just like, I gotta get this energy out of me. um, and so you can really use this. So there's a lot that you can do with this center. It's honestly one of the most powerful centers you have because it is connected with your willpower, and your willpower is one of the greatest powers that you do have. And I am all about self empowerment. And so, like, if you um it's one of these things where that when you are afraid or when something is really meaningful for you, you'll get like knots in your stomach. That's exactly where the solar plexus is. And so being able to know how to breathe and target that area allows you to move towards things that are important to you, to move through fear, and to become secure in yourself, by remembering, honestly, by remembering your truth, the truth of your being, and by experiencing the truth of your being in your own body. So as you can tell, I'm super hyped up for this center today.
It's cool that
And
you mentioned exercise, because it's like there's,
Yeah,
for a long time, like in exercise, whatever, they talk about your abs, right? And then at some point,
yeah.
it's switched over to being about the core, I mean, same region, right?
Mhm.
But I like
Yeah.
that term, your core, right? Because I mean, well,
Mhm.
first of all, it's pretty important, right? If you're going to move your body at all, or even just be upright in any manner, you're going to be using those muscles, right? The muscles that are, your abdominal muscles, your back muscles, sides of your body, all of this. Um, but just spiritually, we know that energizing this area through exercise also energizes the center. It also
100%.
strengthens your will, it strengthens your discipline. So I think we're both very interested in, like, how do these things carry over, right? Because our kind of general outlook is that everything's spiritual, right? I mean, it's not, spiritual is not this separate other thing, right? It's everything, so
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a bi-directional experience, and so we're going to go through how to energize or how to work through your fear in this center today together through our meditations. And we find that the meditations are just the deepest that you can go with this inner work, really. And so, but sometimes you can't sit down. Sometimes you're in so much fear that sitting is not an option. And so for people like you who like have so much anxiety and so much fear, you might even have an exacerbated amount of solar plexus energy. The best thing for you to do is I can't say that online. I was gonna cuss. The best thing to do is to kick your own butt. Um, the best thing to do is kick your own butt in your physical practice, in order to get those energies activated and to kind of burn through them, to let yourself burn through some of those fire energies inside of you, and then you can sit for a given period of time, which will be worthwhile. And just since Asatar mentioned the word core, in Latin, core means heart. So just to bring it kind of full circle. And so one of the things that I love the most about the solar plexus is that I find that it's, you know, it's right where, whenever I'm tuning inside, and we're going to do this in our meditation, but when I'm tuning inside, I find it's right where the depth of my heart touches the top of the solar plexus. And so we're gonna experiment with that a little bit internally to really find these places within ourselves to have more self-mastery and more self-command.
You know, sometimes people ask me, you know, what is mastery? What is willpower, right? What is discipline? And it is, you know, the simplest way to say it is it's the ability to say, I can, right? Um,
Mm,
that's a very fundamental power to have, right? To say, I
mm,
can. Um, that's, you know, like, you think about that, right? That's worthy of some pondering. Um, what does it mean to say that? And when do you feel like you can, right? Under what circumstances or in what areas do you feel that, right? And when do you not feel that, right? You
mhm,
know, like when we get down, um, you know, I'll tell you, I was down all day today, you know, and one of
mm,
the things that happens is I feel like, oh, I can't, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that, right? I mean, like, it's just, these things track so closely, right? When you feel expanded, when you feel full of potential and possibility, that I can energy is really strong, right? And when you don't
mhm,
feel that way, I mean, and you know, we all go through these waves and expansions and contractions and whatever, right? We're not the same from moment to moment or day to day, right? But when that, you know, when that ebbs, you're like, oh, I can't do anything, you know? Um,
mm,
so, you know, just to think about like what, when you feel that way, right? Or how can you bring that out more, right? When you need it, you know? And it's not to deny that sometimes you feel negative, sometimes you feel sad, right? These are all feelings that that's okay, right? It's just, you know, we have this power within us, right? And
mhm,
what does it mean to be able to tap into it, and
mhm.
to, you know, really energize?
Yeah, exactly, Asatar. And the I do think that it's like one of these fine lines, because it's like sometimes we have like real limitations, right? But how often are those limitations like completely self-fabricated, right? Like avoiding something out of fear, avoiding something out of overwhelm, when you actually can do it. And that's why this, like, even just the ability to say I will, you know, that's an extraordinary self-power, and very much an act of the solar plexus, the will, the power center. So,
Yeah.
all
Um,
right.
should I go first, Leah? Is that
In our infinite discussions about this topic, we did not decide who would meditate first. I'll start off, also. Sorry,
all right.
but you can't hold me back. Can't stop, won't stop. Not with the solar plexus center. Okay, so I want to help us all tap into this. So, because it's one of your superpowers, all right? So go ahead and stretch as much as you need to. I mean, all the centers are your superpowers, but this is the one that I think most of us are familiar with. It's really people with a strong solar plexus are very much idealized in our culture. So go ahead and close your eyes. So I'm gonna help us get to the solar plexus by starting with the heart. So I want you to place one of your palms onto your heart as you deepen your breath. So you're gonna you're going to create a nice full deep breath. And you can help yourself do that by expanding your belly on the inhalation and then contracting your belly at the end of your exhalation. And so as you start to deepen your breath, you're already going to be kind of shifting gears here because you've had a normal day, a normal life today, and now suddenly you're paying attention to what's inside, and that's a big shift. And so as you deepen your breath right now, give yourself that time and that space to make that shift of your attention, of your awareness, and your focus. And as you deepen your breath, I would like you to feel your heartbeat. So either feel it with your palm or your inner senses, your inner nervous system. Feel your heartbeat as you breathe. And just keep on going with that full breathing in, full breathing out, and really listen, really find your inner drum. Your heart, every time your heart beats, it's reminding you of almost like this call toward that which is most important to you. I want you to sink very deeply into the center of your heart as you listen to your inner drum. A lot of us don't know necessarily what our purpose in life might be. Some of us are really lucky and we know exactly why, like more or less the contribution that we want to make. Some of us are very lucky in knowing exactly the fruits, exactly the flowers that we want to produce. But most of us, a lot of us don't have an articulation of it, but you can still feel it, feeling this sense of a purpose, this sense of a mission constantly burning inside of you. And your heartbeat is beating the rhythm of your ever rising aspiration. Try to hear and feel and anchor yourself more and more deeply into that fire. That sense of what, at your deepest part of your own depth, you are moving toward. In our meditations, we don't have to have any of the answers, and in fact, we're just creating space. We're creating space to remember, to know, and to feel what's really there. So with your mind's eye, focus all of your concentration into the very depth of your heart. Try to locate almost the most vulnerable spot in the very depth of your heart, the most tender, vulnerable place. And then go a little bit deeper until you kiss the truth. On your next inhalation, inhale through a slightly opened up mouth and exhale through your nose. You can rest your hand if you like. So sipping the air in through a slightly opened up mouth and exhaling out your nose. It's the fire breath. In through the mouth and out through the nose. Full breath. Every time that you inhale through your mouth, imagine a stream of energy moving right into your solar plexus center. So it's right at the bottom of your sternum. And you go into your heart and you go all the way to the bottom of your longing. Once the bottom of your longing kisses the height of your truth, that's where you breathe into. And you can imagine with every breath that you take, every inhalation, either light or fire begins to build right there. And as you exhale out of your nose, allow that light, allow that fire to rise up in you. The truth is really something that cannot be spoken, but I do think it's something that can be felt, something that can be remembered. And I want to invite you to right now, in this moment, remember the truth of your being. What's at the depths of you And if everything burned away, if your fear burned away, your anxieties burned away, your negative sense of self burned away, if all of that burned away, what would still be there? What is always there? What is your internal phoenix rising? The solar plexus center, you can act, you can will, you can go forward from the center, you can build your own self-power by breathing into this center. But what are you moving toward? It's always important to remember what you're moving toward. Where are you going? What are you willfully creating in your life? And in order to willfully create that in your life, what are you saying no to? What do you need to say no to right now in order to willfully create one step forward toward that which is your ideal, that which is your real vision for your life, your real focal point? The doubts and the fears, you just give them right into the flames as you inhale into your solar plexus. Letting anything that's false just burn in the fire of truth, in the depth of your own being. Don't be afraid, and if you are afraid, let it burn all the way through. Remember the ennoblement of your own center of your being. Remember the ennoblement of the light inside of your soul. Live from that place, and with every breath that you take, empower your ability to step forward toward that which you willfully will create, toward your vision. Toward your unique placement and your unique contribution. Don't be afraid. And if you are afraid, burn your doubt and burn your fear in the fire of the truth of your being. Every breath you take, we'll do a few more breaths together. Every breath you take, burn everything that no longer needs to be there. And as you breathe, again, feel your inner drum, feel your heartbeat, beating the rhythm of your ever-rising aspiration. Reminding you who you really are. All right. When you're ready, go ahead and move your body and open up your eyes.
Well, I could really feel the energy of that. I hope you all could get the feeling of that center from that meditation that Leah led for us. That there's something uncompromising about it, right? Like that fire that says, you know, what is it you're longing for? What is your ideal? What is the height of that ideal? Um, and what can you bring to bear for that, right? So there's a particular kind of energy there. I hope you're noticing that, right? That's maybe some of you guys have been with us for the whole series, where we started with the crown chakra, right? And it's a very different energy there, right? Or the third eye, right? The third eye, much more about insight and intuition, right? Much less about that pow, right? I mean, it's it's a different energy, and all of these energies are part of your being. They're all contained within the heart, right? Or when we focus on the heart center, that sense of love, and that's different still, right? So I was thinking about this as we were doing the meditation, and I was thinking about, if we think about the love of your heart, right, and then we think about, your solar plexus, it's kind of like, when someone says you go with your gut, right? Well, what is that, right? What is gut versus heart? You know, I mean, like clearly those are both coming from someplace deep. Like it's different than when somebody says, "Well, think it through," right? I mean, so okay, that's coming from a different place. Go with your gut, but I mean, you're not thinking it through, right? You're feeling something. You're right, or follow your heart, right? I mean, like again, it's not coming from up here, right? You're not listing pro and cons. You're saying what is the what is the energy of my heart? What's the love in my heart? Where's that going? What is that longing for, right? And so I think about, if we return to the theme of power, one of the real keys here is that power is unlocked by desire. You have to know what you want in order to bring to bear that power.
Yeah.
I'm watching this show right now. I don't know if some of you guys are watching. The show is called Succession. It's about, this rich families, billionaires, and, the kids and whatever. And one of the problems of the very rich, apparently, I don't know this directly because I'm, did not have that upbringing, but is like, what do you want? Like if you're given everything, it can be kind of difficult to know, like, well, what do you want? What's worth doing, right? And so, you sort of see that theme, right? How do I know what I want? And there's one moment where, like the daughter in the show says, I really want this, and it's like, wow, like I really want this,
Yeah.
what a moment, Um,
Yeah.
and most of us probably don't have that kind of problem, but a lot of times we do cover up just from ourselves. What is it that
Mhm.
we really want,
Yeah.
Because when you
Mhm.
let yourself know what you really want, you're also obligated, aren't you, to do something about it? I mean, and
Mhm.
if you don't let yourself know that, then maybe
Yeah.
you're not experiencing that kind of pressure.
This is where it gets sticky, because this is what I find so fascinating, through this connection between the depth of the heart and the willpower, because it's like the depth of the heart is like the most vulnerable place we have in our body, like, or at least it feels like it to me
Mm.
energetically. And oh my God, it's just like agony, pain. Like it's like that depth of that heart is one of the most tender spots in that it touches, it kisses the height of the solar plexus. To me, shows that you have to go through the pain. I love the movie Dune. I love the books Dune. And like it starts off with this man having to put his hand, the boy really having to put his hand into a box that he doesn't know what's going on. All he can do is feel pain. And the test was if he could endure that. And
But
I
then it
think that
shows him too. It shows his hand getting, like torn apart, kind of, right? Like, yeah,
no, well, not in the new one. No, they
not
don't.
in the
They
new
don't
one. No,
actually show. But
I'm going
it
based on the old one.
feels like it. He feels like all this pain moving, but he doesn't move his hand, right? And I think that that is the test of the solar plexus. It's like you have to want it. You have to go into the depth
Yeah.
of your own fear in order to reach that everlasting flame that is your willpower, that is your own internal truth.
Being in desire is vulnerable. I mean, it's longing, right? It's acknowledging
Mhm.
that you don't have something, that you want something, right? And
Mhm.
that is a vulnerable moment. That's a scary moment, but it also unleashes the power to make that happen, right? Or it can.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to access that power without it, let's say, right? You got to want it, right? And so,
So
life
true.
gives us these
It's so
tests, right?
true.
I mean, we encounter obstacles, right? Whatever direction we go in, we're going to
Yeah.
encounter obstacles. And those obstacles are, this is the universe's way of saying, how badly do you really want this, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's
You really want this? Show me,
true.
right?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, and if you look at obstacles in that manner, it's a little more, maybe maybe you say, all right, damn it, you're going to throw down the gauntlet like that? I accept your challenge. And that's the
Mhm.
kind of energy that comes from the solar plexus, right? I mean, there's a different way of looking at obstacles. We could say, oh gosh, this is pretty inconvenient, and maybe this isn't right, whatever, right? That's not a solar plexus energy. And I'm not saying that that's wrong or inappropriate or whatever. You're going to be the best judge, right, in a given situation, right? But I'm just saying that's not the energy of the solar plexus, right? The energy of the solar
Mm.
plexus, pow, right? You
Yeah.
bust through it, right? Or you endure
Yeah.
it, or you have the courage to take a risk,
Mm.
and why, right?
Uh,
Because you want something, because it's coming out of love, right, on some level. So,
mhm.
we want to
You
we want
rise to the occasion.
rise to the occasion, exactly, right? There's a rising energy here,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And I just want to say for everybody out there that's like, wow, this sounds super idealistic and awesome, but I'm nowhere near that. I just want everyone that's in that boat to know that when I started off, I had a gaping hole in my solar plexus. I mean, it was just, I mean, it might as well been the Grand Canyon. And you know
She
what
means
filled up that?
energetically, of course, not physically.
Hypo energetically. And
Yeah.
so so and you know what was in that gaping hole? Fear. It just
Mm,
extreme amounts of fear. And so, you gotta trust me, like, you gotta burn through it. You just have to burn through it, and then what is left at the end of that? And that's your light right there. You have it.
absolutely.
It's in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's fear, there's that, there's unworthiness. I mean, I can tell you for
Mm,
myself, I felt very wounded at a very young age. I associated that wounding with a very powerful person in my life, right? And so I rejected the kind of concept of power, right? I said, like, I don't want anything to do with that, right? But that's kind of a problem, right? Because power is like a fundamental part of being human, right? I mean, like we all have that to some extent, right? We have a desire for it because look, we there's things we want, there's things we want to make happen. That requires power. Um,
mm,
Now, of course, we could think about how is it wielded, how is it used, right? To what end? How does it affect others? All these things are considerations, right? But we wouldn't want to say, well, because it could be abused, we better never have power right now. That's
right.
realistic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's cutting your own legs off, so
Yeah.
but I'll just be honest and say I did that for a lot of my life, and and so
Right.
it was my response to that sort of wounding.
That's so interesting because you're such, I've just always seen you as so having so much self-discipline. You have an incredible ability to say no. The ability to say no is definitely a solar plexus feature. And so to hear, you say you know what you want, you have the desire, you know what you want. You have to say no to everything else. Like I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I think you know what I'm talking about. When you really want
Gotta say
something,
no. Yeah.
you have to say no to a lot of other things, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so and I'm surprised. So I'm surprised to hear that, Asatar, and I think that that bodes well for all of us. That if Asatar,
Well, I mean, you know me for a while, but it was before that, like I think
hmm
where, but all these things like it bear an imprint, and so I think, you overcome things, but they're still there. You still remember, the self that struggled with that.
yeah,
Um, I mean, so you've seen me be a lot more comfortable wielding power or whatever, right? I mean, and that's been a development for me, but it's one that I'm just saying one that I struggled a lot with, because of this wound and the influence of that, and and
yeah,
and I can just also say um, it's been really helpful to use the techniques of meditation to create space to develop that to encounter these things where I wasn't aware of them before, to go into the experience and learn from it, in a
mm,
uh, in what feels like a very rapid kind of way.
mm, mm, yeah,
Well, I guess with that we should meditate some more, right?
yeah. Show us how you did it. How'd you empower your power center?
Oh, 10 easy steps. Oh no, that's too many. Five, five difficult steps.
Difficult.
Each one
Okay.
is monumental.
Oh, yes. Okay.
All right. Well, we we want to get into this sense of the power that comes from this center, and really from the truth, right? Like Leah was talking about so eloquently earlier. Um, Comes from the truth, right? And the truth is very uncompromising. And so we have a sound for this. We have a mantra. In Sufism, it's called a wazifa. These are known as the names of God, um, and they are descriptions of kinds of energy, right? So this is the attribute of God, which is the truth. Um, and the wazifa is Yahak. So Yah means I call upon. It means I invoke. It means oh aspect of God, right? Like that. And Hak means truth. So Yahak. And the way that it's said, it's a very short, sharp sound, right? And the way that the sound is said, right, because of the hardness of it, right? Huck, like that, right? It's got that hard stop to it, right? How do you make a hard stop? Well, you make it by bouncing it off your core, right? You make it by tightening your abdominal muscles and blasting that sound, right? So we want it to be a very clear sound, a very sharp sound. It's uncompromising. It should be like ringing a bell, all right? So I'm going to do this a couple of times, and maybe you feel the energy of this, all right? Ya hup, 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 ya hup. I love that one because it's kind of like the opposite of what you think of as a mantra. You're thinking of something soft and droning and calming, and this is like
Mm.
a barking, striking kind of sound, right? You do this for a while, and it really has a very powerful effect. You can just feel it striking the solar plexus and then echoing up and out through your throat. Now, you want to follow this up by using the power of the full breath. And we do that by focusing on the breath intently, bringing in the breath, expanding the belly on the inhalation, and then expanding the chest. And then on the exhalation, controlling the breath, squeezing the abdominal muscles, squeezing out all the breath that you can. And this is going to require you to use much more of your core. It's going to require much greater use of your abdominal muscles than you do normally when you're breathing. Your abdominal muscles should always be energized. If you're doing the full breath, you should feel that you are holding the breath back at every part of the breathing cycle, not just at the very end of the exhalation. Yes, that part too, right? But you're also controlling the breath at the very beginning of the inhalation so that you keep the breath even, you keep it flowing. You don't allow it to rush in all at once, right? Even, smooth flow of breath. That requires control. That requires that core to be activated. Fill up your belly now and then fill up your chest. Really expand. Breathe out, engage the abdominal muscles. Going to find that this requires a lot more concentration on your breathing than you normally put into it. Now, of course, we also want the breath to be rhythmic. So focus on your heartbeat along with this. Bring your heartbeat into balance with your breath. Same number of beats on the inhalation as on the exhalation. Maybe that number is 8 beats in, 8 beats out. And since we are using the practice of huck, take that sound and place it on your heartbeat so that when you're listening to your heartbeat, You hear that sound, huck. And you can use that sound, you can use that word to group the beats, right? So 8 beats becomes huck, 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 huck. Right? So rather than going 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., right? You're just using that rhythmic quality, breaking the breath into groups of 4. Very basic rhythm. Those of you who have some musical training recognize that as a fundamental way of keeping rhythm. So your heart is beating with the word for divine truth. You're controlling your breath, you're focusing on your breath, you're breathing fully, engaging the muscles of your core. Now take the fire breath that Leah taught us earlier. That is in through the mouth, a slightly opened up mouth, and then out through the nose. And as you breathe in, imagine that the breath comes into your solar plexus, right at the base of your rib cage. And it's like blowing on hot coals. Allow the fire that's in your belly to blaze. And as you breathe out through the nose, allow it to radiate. Feel that power rising and spreading throughout your body, throughout your being, and going far beyond what you think of as your body at the end of that, going out into the space around you. Because the energy of your being is not limited by space or time. That energy goes on and on and on. And as you feel this power rising in you, consider, what is it that you're longing for? What does your heart desire? Let your power be unleashed. Now you might notice your heart brings a lot of wisdom here. Your heart brings that feeling of love, of empathy, of connection, of oneness. What happens when you really care about somebody? Well, you feel what they feel. You want all the good for them, right? So you bring that feeling into that sense of power that's rising in you. Because power can be used for good or for ill. We don't want it to become disconnected from the love in our hearts. Now, of course, we recognize that good and ill are relative terms, and what is good to one may seem ill to someone else. But with that recognized, right, that truth recognized, there are some basic things here, right? Is what you desire going to hurt someone else? If so, maybe that's something to consider, right? Maybe that's something to bring that love in your heart to bear. Maybe there's something that you really want, right? Because hurting somebody else is so limited anyway, right? I mean, like, is that really what you want? Don't be afraid to go deeper. Sometimes there's a kind of surface desire. We don't want to deny that, right? We say, all right, yeah, thank you for letting me know about that desire. I'm so glad to feel that. What an amazing thing it is to feel that desire, that longing. Don't be afraid of it. Tune into it. It's a river. Dive into it. But don't stay at the surface either. Dive all the way down to the depths. You might find you might find that there's more to that desire, that desire changes, transforms. Maybe it becomes larger. It might surprise you. It might be different than it appeared initially. The point is, we want to take this longing very seriously. We want to experience that. We want to bring our power to bear.
Mm.
Now, of course, meditation is about experiencing the infinite. And so perhaps you open yourself to that experience as well. What is infinite about my desire? Perhaps your desire, maybe it seems so prosaic, maybe it seems so personal, it's only for you, right? How could it be more than that? How could it be infinite? How could it be unlimited? When you dive into that river of desire, maybe you find you go deeper and deeper and deeper. You might find that that desire opens up into the infinite. All right, we'll end our meditation there.
Mm.
Return your consciousness to the here and now and away from the infinite power within you.
Mm. Thank you so much, Asatai. What I appreciated so much about that was that we spent enough time on it where it's almost like the wildness of the fire burnt through enough of my personal anxieties or whatever's going on inside me today until it became very steady. And that I think that's one of these points of having a strong solar plexus is that when you connect with your truth, it might take some burning to get there, but when you connect with your truth, you will have a very secure sense of self. Because truth is something that holds through all the tests and all the trials that you might go through. on your way toward your greatest desire. So thank you
Yeah,
for holding us through that.
very true. I mean, the more the what it makes me think of too is the more powerful you are, the less you have to show it. Um,
Mm, mm,
like sometimes
yeah.
just maintaining, right? Just having that kind of steady focus,
Mm,
right? Or just maintaining the belief in something, even when it seems very improbable.
mm, yeah.
Sometimes that's, like we don't think of that as being like power, but it is, right? The ability to work steadily at something until you attain it, right? You have to believe in it in order to do that. Um, so yeah, having that, I mean, sometimes we need that burst of energy too, right? We need that kind of fire, right? But sometimes we need that kind of, you know, the coals, right? That continue
Or
to radiate
eh,
heat, right?
yeah, or like or torch on the path, like as you make your way, like beacon, but it's internally. It's internal. That steady beacon as you make your way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, so
Mm.
this week we explored power, um, that topic that doesn't seem that spiritual, but it is. I hope we've convinced you that it is very spiritual because everything's spiritual, right?
Mm.
Um, and next week we've got the next one down, and that is the sexual chakra, right? This is the center of creativity, right? So if the solar
Hey.
plexus is about saying no, sexual center is about saying yes, right? So and we have that
Yes.
power,
Yes.
sex. Come on, you guys, this is getting real. Uh, I hope. I
Oh
mean, we don't
gosh.
like to deal with cliffhangers in this show, but tune in next week for that.
Absolutely. It's going to be fantastic. Yes. And you'll see again that it's a very, very different energy. So just like for those of you that are with us tonight, we're so happy to have you here. Keep working on your self-empowerment. It will help drive you towards your ideal. It will help you to move through your obstacles for that which you really desire, and to become secure in yourself by anchoring into the truth of your being. And so just keep at it. If that's not a natural thing for you, just keep at it. Keep on keeping on.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing with meditation, with any kind of inner work, with moving towards anything, right? Stick with it, and you'll get there. So,
All right.
and of course, if we can help, please let us know. Or if you have questions about anything about the show, Leah's on Instagram. You should follow her there.
Yes.
Um, you can find me on Twitter. You can leave a comment on the message, on the video. And of course, if you'd like to support the show, please go to the Patreon page, and we really appreciate all of our patrons. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next week, perhaps. Talk about the sexual chakra.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a good night.